Solar Party! Pretty good. How are you? Yeah.
I'm great. Thank you guys so much for having me. Yeah, we are. I think every place looks like every other place now. It's just four walls, right? So yeah, it's good.
Rhett, I'm looking.
Well,
Oh, shoot. I may have lost you guys. Can you guys still hear me?
yeah, we can hear you.
I'm looking at a picture that I got of you when I met you at Summer League a couple years ago. And your beard's looking a little grayer, man.
Yeah,
Is a baby's wearing
every
it?
off season it gets a little grayer. I'm kidding. The no, it's just it is. It's a baby. It's just life. It's slowly getting me.
Mine's coming in gray too now, Red. But my girl's 3, so she's
Yeah, exactly.
it gets worse. That's what I'm trying to say, Red. So everybody that was wondering, I fixed my mic. So I am Greg Esposito, your host. Ahoy hoy, Rhett Reese, Dave King. For those of you who could not hear before, it is a solar party edition of the solar panel here on a Wednesday night.
Oh,
so
man. I heard you fine, but you were like, were you not?
So I have a program. You guys I'm talking to you through Skype. I have a program that broadcasts it to the fine people, and I have myself muted because I've been using this program for my day job to actually broadcast things, and I'm the producer, so I'm not supposed to be on air. So I keep it muted, and apparently I was still on mute. So there's your explanation.
I'd like to
everybody.
have that mute button. So just when you're making a point that I don't agree with, I just tap it and off you go.
Yeah, well, guess what? I have all the power, and you guys will have to sit here and listen to me. So we got plenty to talk about tonight, which is amazing because they haven't played basketball in what feels like 4 years. But the first thing officially this week, and guys, I'm going off book. I didn't tell you I was going to talk about this, but officially this week, the Suns did announce that if they return to play this summer, and they do it here in Phoenix, not one of these quarantine situations where all teams would be in one city. The Suns will, in fact, play their remaining 6 home games, if they play them, at the Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Now, Rhett, you grew up in Arizona. I assume that
I am there.
you probably have been to a few Suns games at the old Veterans Memorial Coliseum.
Many games, actually. Yeah, I saw a lot of half times where women had to go and shoot free throws to win free hams. They used to do that at halftime. They had that old fiddle music. They lost the fiddle music. So at some point during the third or fourth quarter, when the Suns would go on a run and the fans were really into it, during the timeout, they would go to this fiddle music, and it was like old country western fiddle, and it would bring the house every time. It was so great. And then at some point, when they moved to the new arena and things got more modern, they let the fiddle music go, and it just about killed me. So I love the Met House on McDowell. Saw many, many games there. That's the gray in my beard speaking.
Yeah, and that's where my dad. I've gone to a few games there too as well, and that's where my dad had season tickets for many, many years, all the way through that. Right up until the finals run, I guess, because they did the finals run at the America West Arena. But definitely, my dad loved his seats there at the Madhouse, and now I get to hopefully cover some games there. That'd be really fun.
I'm coming back for sure. If that happens, if I had to guess, it won't happen. But
I think we have to leave one of us.
I'm there.
It has to be like the White House, though, where you leave one key person out of the building in case it falls, so at least one of us survive.
Yeah. All right, I'll stay away. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'll be the one Suns dignitary to not be in the building.
That's right. You can report from outside.
I agree.
I was just going to say, doesn't the stadium look like a stack of Pringles? That's what I always think of when
it's
flying
the Pringle.
in.
Yeah, the Pringles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I don't
The
know.
original low slung.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rhett. Though I highly doubt we're actually going to get to that point. I think if we see games, they're going to wind up in this quarantined one city, all games played in one arena kind of situation. If we get anything
I'm
for the
super
remainder of this
skeptical.
season,
Wimbledon's already been canceled.
they just canceled the British Open golf tournament too in June. So
Yeah,
I
so
think we're
everything
in.
through June's canceled. Yeah, yeah. And by
I'm
then it's just
skeptical that the NFL is going to play. I don't think the NFL is going to play. So
that is the big key because there's so much money. College football and the NFL. Oh my God! Can you imagine these guys missing a whole college season?
Yeah, it's going to be. We're gonna have to dig
Career
real. Yeah, we're gonna have to dig real deep to find topics, is what I'm thinking. Moving
Can you
forward here in the
imagine?
future.
We'll be sitting here in August going, "What do you think? Are they going to play college football and
Okay.
NFL?"
Is the NBA draft going to be held sometime in January? You guys think?
That's one thing I am looking forward to is the NFL draft. They're going to do it all online, and we'll get to watch this. I don't know how the hell they're going to do it. Different single-person war rooms like us, just sitting there in our little walk-in closets and the sound.
yeah, I mean, I am very curious and I'm very excited. It's pretty much all we have, right? I mean, I know that NFL first round. I know those first 7 or 8 guys as well as I know my own family at this point.
It's all we have. That's right.
It's all ESPN playing that, and somehow old WWE wrestling matches I've seen on ESPN at different times over the last few weeks.
Tonight was the Game 7. Wednesday night, as we're recording this, they just finished showing Game 7 of the 2016 Finals.
Oh,
LeBron brought them back from 3-1 down.
I actually
when I just tuned in, like in the fourth quarter, I just didn't even know it was on. I tuned in the fourth quarter. My first reaction is, "Oh my God, these guys are so tired. They couldn't make a single shot. They were short arming everything." Yeah, and I remember them talking about how exhausted they were, both teams, by the end of that finals after those seasons they played.
Yeah, well, I don't actually mind getting to relive some of the older stuff. I don't mind watching these older games on ESPN and NBA TV. It's not the same as new games. I get it, but it's kind of fun to relive some of that.
As long as we can see it. Can you believe we sat through all that grainy television back then and we thought it was clear?
Oh man, I know. Horrifying.
That is very true. Well, speaking of old games and grainy and foggy memories and all that stuff, I wanted to throw this out to you guys. And Rhett, since you're the guest, you can answer first. But if you could only relive one sports moment or one sports series throughout an entire quarantine like we're going through, what would you pick? And it doesn't have to be Suns related, but what sports moment would you pick to have to watch over and over again while in quarantine?
I might. That's tough. I might go with the Diamondbacks run in 2001. That series against the Yankees was just such a roller coaster. And granted, we had not invested as much into that franchise at that point. They hadn't been in Phoenix that long, but it was just the ups and downs and then the payoff and the championship. I have that recap on DVD. They have the World Series champion. They do that DVD recap. And about every 4 or 5 years, I dust it off and watch it. And it kind of walks you through the season, but mostly the playoffs and the World Series. And it's goosebumps on top of my goosebumps every time. So I'll go with that.
I'll send. Yeah, I actually have every game of that series in a DVD box set. I should send it your way so you can watch it.
That's
yeah.
Nice.
They played actually Game 7 the other day, I guess, on Fox. I didn't catch it, but a lot of people were tweeting about it. Yeah, no, that was really interesting. But you know what? A lot of not a lot, but some of our listeners weren't even alive for that. So I guess I probably shouldn't even go further back because I would replay 95% of the 93 finals. I would play 95% of the 2010 playoffs, maybe 99% of the 2010 playoffs, and just stop the 2010 playoffs for the Suns with a minute left. I think that would be good.
Yeah, those were
after the Jason Richardson bank in. and let's just pretend that won the game, and we'll just call it.
Yeah, I think that playoff run is high on that list just because it was unexpected. I probably would love to relive that first 7 seconds or less playoff run and at the tail end of that season, just because that was so much fun to watch. Although I'm kind of afraid if you went back and watched it now, it wouldn't be as fun because the game has evolved so much past that team, and at the time they felt revolutionary. It felt fast, it felt free flowing, and part of me wonders, would it
it's going to look
some of the luster?
Right now.
Yeah,
it would look plotting right now.
Which I wonder if that would just make
that
it
is interesting. I think you're right. I think in retrospect it might not have been that exciting. It would be real fun to go back, and I don't know if this was 2010, Dave, because my years are maybe a little foggy, but the Nash, Kobe, the Tim Thomas, the Raja Bell clothesline.
That was 06.
That was when was that?
06.
Oh, 06. I really have my years.
14 years
Raja
ago.
with the clothesline and
Kobe.
And
that was when we beat the Clippers, right? Where Tim Thomas hit the three.
I was there for that game when actually Raja Bell tied it in Game 5 against the Clippers, or was it Game 6? Game 5.
Oh, from the baseline, right?
That baseline.
That was just so
Daniel
great.
Ewing, poor Daniel Ewing, he never had a career after that.
That's right. He came in for just that 5 seconds or something like that. And then the famous Game 7 where Kobe quit. Remember, he just about halfway through the game, he just started
didn't take any shots,
refusing to shoot. It was like such a Bush League move on his part. I mean,
I never got respect back for him after that.
God rest his soul. But that was just a very classless ending to a wonderful series. I mean, from my perspective, I couldn't have loved it more. But
I will have to say, now let me just turn it around just a little bit to give Kobe some props, and not just because it's in memoriam, but man, that 2010 playoffs, I hated him so bad for that, but he was so good in that 2010 conference finals.
Yeah.
And he was all, he wasn't even a dick about it. He turned around, he popped Alvin Gentry on the butt after making one of his killer shots again.
But he did miss the key when he airballed it, and that's why we lost, right? Wasn't that the test?
Yeah, right. That's why I would watch all but the last few seconds of that game. I mean, and then 2007, all but the last few seconds of game, through Game 4. 2006, all until Raja Bell pulled his calf in Game 1 of the conference finals. There's so many
against the fogginess sets in. But I was at the game where Boris and Amari were suspended. And
me too.
Great seats, and that was the only Suns game. It was the only Suns game I ever went to where the whole crowd stood the whole game. We never sat down the whole game. That's my memory anyway.
That was incredible. I was there too. Same thing. Didn't sit down the whole game, and foolishly thought we had a chance when really the Spurs were just playing.
Well, but we did lead the whole game, and Kurt Thomas was playing his butt off, and Jimmy Jackson, those guys, we were really going to win it, I thought, and then it just Bruce Bowen and some threes, and it was the most heartbreaking loss I've ever been to live.
The whole Suns franchise is heartbreaking loss on threes. I mean, one of my most visceral memories was going to it wasn't even playoff games. It was Christmas Day game against the Spurs. I don't know, in the late 2000s. No, it was 08. Maybe it was 08 or 09. Christmas Day game against the Spurs. Suns had a chance. Grant Hill had made a shot to put the Suns up, I believe, by 2 with one possession left. And Tony Parker broke it down and dished it to Roger Mason Jr. in the corner. And Mason hit the 3 as the buzzer sounded to win the game on Christmas Day. The entire crowd, we were going, nobody sat down. Everybody was screaming, complete silence.
That pretty much sums up being a Suns fan right there.
That's why I went Diamondbacks. Why are we doing this to ourselves?
Okay, yes. Right. You're
right.
That's the other for the major sports, for the four major sports, because we have 84 championships in the minor sports, but in the major sports, that's the only one. So, Rhett, you win this contest.
I would still to be honest, I would still put the Cardinals Super Bowl run up against the Diamondbacks.
Even that went down the last 30 seconds to
listen,
lose.
That one was so improbable that making the Super Bowl as a Cardinals fan, was pretty much like winning the Super Bowl.
What's the play you remember the most?
It sort of was. It was all gravy for me until I went to Tampa Bay, because I was at that game. And when James Harrison ran that thing back, I remember Bruce Springsteen played at halftime. And like, he's my favorite guy, Bruce Springsteen, but I was enraged the entire time he was playing. Like, I couldn't get over it. And then I let it in when Larry broke that long pass touchdown. My brother and I, were hugging and tears were coming down our face, and I let it in, and that was the mistake there.
Yeah. You know what? The first thing I did, I was watching that with family that day, and the first thing I did was look at the freaking clock, and I'm like, oh God.
Oh God.
There's 2.5 minutes. Why did they do a 50-yard touchdown with 2.5 minutes left? But I will say that Kurt Warner appeared in 3 Super Bowls. His team took the lead in all 3 Super Bowls on their final offensive possession. His final chance, he got a touchdown all 3 times to take the lead, but his team lost 2 of them.
Interestingly, he did get the ball back after Santonio Holmes caught that pass, but it was like with about 20 seconds. Or something.
Yeah, that doesn't
hard
really
to call it an offensive
doesn't
possession.
really count. But his last real potential touchdown drives in 3 Super Bowls put his team ahead all 3 times.
That guy, Hall of Famer. He's an amazing.
Yeah.
So let's put a little spin on it. We did the teams, but if you could only watch one player and their highlights for their Arizona highlights, you can't say Shaq because he played for the Suns and then watch him. But if you could choose one Arizona player and all you could watch during quarantine is that specific player's highlights for your entire time, who would you select? Dave, we'll start with you this time.
Oh man, you're going to start with me this time. One Suns player, and I can only watch his Suns highlights.
It can be any Arizona athlete, but you can only watch their highlights from when they're in Arizona. So you can't say James Harden and take his ASU days in Houston.
I'm going to steal this. I'm going to steal this from a Twitter friend, and I'm sorry I forgot your name. I could probably look at my mentions, but I don't have time right now. But I had suggested Nash, obviously, was the obvious winner because you tweeted this the other day, Greg. And then someone replied to me really intelligently and said, you should pick Marion, because then you get to watch Marbury, Kidd, and Nash all as the point guards, and Marion through all those different kinds of teams, and all the way through the good years of the 7 seconds less. The only thing you're missing would be the 2010 run.
Yeah, it's actually
so Sean Marion. That's my call.
Rhett, you've had a few seconds to think about it.
I can't beat that because that's actually a better answer than the one I'm going to give. I'm going to go Charles Barkley, and that's just because when Barkley was playing for us, I always said there were 2 games going on. There was the game, and then there was Charles. Like, Charles was the game within the game. Just watching him, like the times I had good tickets when he was on the team, my eyes never left him. I just watched him, and he was so entertaining. Just his body language, the way the gun to the head when he missed free throws, the kicking his mouthpiece into the stands, all that stuff. Like, he was just a joy to watch. The good and the bad. Just the big personality.
Oh yeah, I remember now. The gun to the head when he missed free throws. That's right.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, he was just so fun to watch, and it was one of those things where I know he was sort of like Jeff Hornacek had to leave town for him to come, and Hornacek had been my favorite, and so I feel like we didn't really earn Barkley. He kind of fell in our laps, and yet about a year into his time with us, I said, I hate to say it, he's just my favorite son ever. It's just too gosh darn fun watching him.
Charles is my favorite, and I would probably pick him if I had to pick a Suns guy. KJ is another one because if you think about it, you get to watch him with Chambers and that whole run in the Cotton Express. Then you get to watch the finals run, and you get the tail end of the career where he played with the rest of those teams as well. So you're getting your mix of Barkley and Chambers and a bunch of guys that you get to watch within that. But I think the ultimate answer to this, and this came from a lot of discussion on Twitter, but I think it is Jake Plummer. Because if you choose Jake Plummer, you get to watch his run with ASU in that undefeated season, right? And then you get to watch that Cardinals playoff run that first time they made the playoffs in '98. So you get 2 pretty iconic runs from one player in that in two different uniforms. That one struck me as a pretty good value pick in this kind of thought experiment.
I like it.
Yeah, I think we have some good choices. Anybody?
I haven't checked the comments.
Nobody in the one actually, Rip93 Ford says Larry Fitzgerald, and it's tough to argue going with Fitz.
Says I look like the Shaggy Dog. Hey, look, man.
Dave's getting grouchy, but yeah, I think Fitz is a good call too. The thing that I would find immensely frustrating with watching Larry Fitzgerald highlights is you'd have to see the 14 really crappy quarterbacks that threw him the ball outside of Carson Palmer, Kurt Warner, and Kyler Murray. You'd have to deal with the Max Halls of the world and the John Skeltons.
It's a good point. I mean, Larry may actually be underrated, because if you'd given him Tom Brady that whole stretch, or Aaron Rodgers, it would have even been that much greater.
Well, look at basically it's him and Jerry Rice, right? When you look at the statistics. Jerry Rice had Joe Montana, Steve Young. I believe he had Gannon in Oakland when he played in Oakland. Like, the three main guys who threw him the ball were better than pretty much anybody Fitz had, and Fitz had to go through so many bad quarterbacks. I think that makes him the best receiver of all time, because he did more with less than a lot of the other guys. So I do like the Fitz answer. Jim Rose in the chat says Paul Westphal. Because
I don't know if too many people alive actually have watched Paul Westphal play basketball.
But there's a caveat here. Since he coached those 93 teams, those 90s.
Do you get those? Teams, that's a bonus.
You get
Plus,
those.
you get to see some fun Grand Canyon College stuff with those fans going crazy.
Yep. So there you go. Yeah. I actually think Jim in the chat just had the best answer in terms of a Suns guy, because you would get to Rhett's point, GCU, his son's playing days, which includes the triple overtime 76 finals. Then you get his coaching days that includes the triple overtime 93 finals. I think Paul Westphal is the answer here in the end. So some actual kind of NBA news coming down this week, starting Friday on ESPN. And I'm going to pull up my notes to make sure I get this right. There is a 16-player NBA2k tournament using it with real NBA players playing in the bracket. Devin Booker and Deandre Ayton are both there. Devin Booker is the 5 seed. He's going to take on the number 12 seed Michael Porter Jr. And then you've got Deandre Ayton, who's the 10 seed, taking on Zach LaVine. The number 1 seed in this tournament, Kevin Durant, taking on a former Phoenix favorite, Derrick Jones Jr. It's an interesting thing. I'm not a big video game guy, just because, well, I don't have a whole lot of time for it. But to fill the void, I'm actually looking forward to a little trash talk between NBA players on the virtual court. And Booker and Ayton are on different sides of the bracket, so there is a slim possibility that we could get a Booker-Ayton 2K Finals. I have personal experience. I've talked about this on the show, playing Devin Booker in 2K. He beat me by 60-some-odd points. So I'm going to go with Devin Booker as a surprise run in this tournament. And I think DeAndre Ayton's got less of a chance. But we're obviously just guessing, because none of us really know how these guys play 2K.
But I think anyone who knows a little about Booker's loves knows that he really does love video games. Like, remember the video where he found out about the NBA season being canceled while he was playing Call of Duty Warzone, or one of those
Warzone.
Call of Duty games. He's a gamer. He has his bona fides. So I would not be shocked to see Booker go to the finals of this thing or win it. I mean, I know there's some other guys clearly who do too. Video games are very popular in that demo. But I like Booker's chances.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fabio and
I think Booker's going to do it too. I just feel like he is, just because I know so much about NBA 2K that I have the inside track. I know how it's going to go.
Fabio in the chat wants to know, is Ayton going to be tested for PEDs before this tournament? I don't know what.
No, only if he wins.
I don't know what would qualify as a PED for video games, to be quite frank.
Adderall.
Does it,
Adderall. Some of the best players use Adderall.
Are there cheat codes still too, like in NBA Jam? Like, is that considered a PED in 2K? Can we get some cheat codes? So, I'll be interested to watch this though, just because I'm dying for anything that isn't. The work I have to do, or another reality show on Netflix. So I'm looking forward to getting at least something that resembles sports in front of us. But and another little off the wall question for you guys, and Rhett, I'll give you the pass and make Dave on the spot here. But if you had to spend your quarantine with one former or current son, and you could not leave a house for multiple months, who would you choose to spend that time with that was once a son?
Oh, man. You know what? Just for the entertainment value. So I could go with someone I could hang out with and have a good time. Just hang out with as a dude. I got along really great with Goran Dragic when he was in town. Loved him as a person. Such a nice guy. He only had a couple of bad days there where I didn't recognize him, but the rest of it is such a nice guy. And he even says hi to me when they visit when we pass each other in the hallway at the stadium. Even these days. And Jeff Hornacek was such a good guy too. When he came back as coach, I didn't obviously know him when he was a player. I was too little. But as a coach, he was such a nice guy as well. I could hang with those guys. And Horny can bring his family and everything. That's cool too. But really, for entertainment value, it's got to be. Doesn't it have to be Charles Barkley? I mean, he lives in Phoenix. I would just go hang out at his house, be quarantined with him. I'm sure he's got a pool. He's got a hot tub. He's got everything he needs. And that dude, I'm sure, is a crack up the whole time. And his nachos will be hot.
Yeah. Well, again, Jim Rose in the chat saying Michael Beasley. I think that would at least be an entertaining way to get through your quarantine. I'll say that for it. Rhett, who would be your guy?
I'm gonna go with Mark West. I don't know if you remember much about Mark West, but that guy was about the most thoughtful, brilliant dude ever to go through the Suns organization. Like, I mean, he was just financially savvy. I don't know if the story was apocryphal, but I think Oliver Miller maybe bought 2 luxury cars when he signed his deal, and Mark West made him return one of them. Or I don't know if that's even possible, but
good for him.
When you saw him on the court, he was a bruiser. But then you'd see him off the court, and he'd be wearing those little round glasses, Harry Potter like glasses, and speaking so eloquently on any number of topics. Like, I just think I would like to just learn from the guy. He knew a lot about a lot of things. So I'm going Mark West.
So you're going with someone calm and reassuring. And
yes,
I'm going
exactly.
with Charles
And
Barkley.
someone who can help me break this whole thing down. I want to be able to analyze all these coronavirus statistics and get to the bottom of it. Mark West is my guy.
You don't think Chuck would do that?
Yeah, but Chuck's he's not gonna give you the right answer. I mean, he's gonna be all over the place.
Having hung out with Mark West, I think that is a pretty good call there, Rhett. A genuinely good human being. I am on the fence, and there are 2 polar opposites on my list. But one would be Marcin Gortat, because I dearly love hanging out with Marcin. Marcin would be damn entertaining and fun, and another genuinely good guy. But I think edging him out slightly right now would be Al McCoy. I would love to spend, sitting there picking Al's brain about everything. I mean, I loved the few opportunities that we'd get every couple of months where Al would come down to the area that we worked in the digital department, and he'd just walk in, and he goes, "So what's the news, guys?" And then we'd just BS for like 30 minutes, and he would, he would complain. It was just like hanging out with a normal guy. But then he'd drop a story about the '76 finals, how in the triple overtime game, they were sitting up in the nosebleeds at Boston Garden to call the game, and a drunk guy passes out in his lap right around the end of the first overtime, I believe it was, and how he had to try to push the guy off his lap so he could make the call and stuff. And you'd get these random things. And then I'll never forget the first time I heard Al McCoy curse, and my head about exploded, because that's like 10-year-old you that listened to Al. You're like, that's everything I always wanted, to just to hear that kind of a word come out of his mouth with that booming voice. I think I'd just be enthralled by everything that would come out of Al while you're stuck with him for months at a time in a house. Plus, he can play your piano.
I didn't realize announcers were available, or coaches. Like, I might have picked Cotton Fitzsimmons. How great would he be?
Man, yes, so many good characters. This is great. You take Jerry Colangelo, and he'd probably smuggle in some awesome stuff too. I mean, he'd that dude's the Godfather. He'll figure out ways to get around the.
Oh wow!
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like Jerry would know how to get you the vaccine before anybody else could get it too. I feel like Jerry's that kind of guy. He has the connections.
He's probably already taken it.
He's got everything you could ask for, I'm sure. Yeah. There, like, I just I think what I'm realizing with all of everything that's going on is how valuable that human connection is, and those stories, and just the value of just that storytelling and that verbal communication, just really that connection that you get. And I've thought a lot about a lot of those moments that I had with the team and with those people, and Marchin and Al were two of those guys that I would love to spend a little bit more time with if I had the opportunity to.
Hey, Rhett, what's your thought about that idea of the 30-team playoff? Like, if they do come back, and there's only time for just a playoffs, and the other 14 teams are like, hey, we want in. What do you think? 32?
I don't know. I don't think it doesn't scream fair to me at the end of the day. Like, I'm not sure. I don't envy them trying to come up with alternate scenarios in this craziness. I really don't. I think probably discretion is going to be the better part of valor, and they're just not going to end up doing anything. And this is all just, kind of just
so
conjecture.
No champion, no champion.
I don't know what to do. I mean, look, I think it would be super cool. The idea of getting an all quarantine city or arena where they just can hang out in the hotels and play. It sounds good. Maybe Jerry Colangelo could pull that off. Speaking of people who might be able to pull something like that off, actually do it. But it's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm pessimistic. I'm not sure there's going to be any real way to get this done. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard Vegas, it was floated, and it seems like the one city. Well, I mean, it's shut down. They're not going to open it back up while they're playing, so it has the capacity.
There's no way that city doesn't reopen if those players show up.
No,
that's true too.
I don't know. Like, the capacity to have the hotels to pull it off, have an arena, and actually two arenas that you could play at within distance of all those hotels. It may be the only viable
three,
area,
because there's the one that's right by the casinos too.
I was talking T-Mobile and Thomas and Mack, but you could play Cox Pavilion too, so you could get three venues running at one time, all within a few miles.
The MGM arena is probably big enough. That'd be a fourth venue.
Yeah.
I mean, possible, I guess. It makes probably more sense than any other place you could name.
But do you see? I just don't see the players agreeing to being away from their families, being quarantined in a city, playing in front of no fans. The only way that it seems legitimate is if the NBA says, "Look, it's this, or we don't pay you the remainder of your salary because we're just not going to make any money. So you're going to forego X percentage of whatever you were thinking you were going to make, plus there's no playoff bonuses, so that's more money you're leaving on the table. That seems like the only way you're going to be able to convince these guys, and still I think it's going to be a hard sell to get them to walk away from their families, to play in empty arenas. It's just going to be it's going to be a bizarre situation.
That's a really good point. I mean, what happens contractually if they don't end up doing this sort of thing? I mean,
well, I think they're agreeing on Friday that they're going to reduce player salaries by 1% per game missed.
Well, there's also I believe it's called a
so about 18 to 20%.
Well, I also believe there's that I think it's pronounced force majeure clause in a lot of these contracts where they could do the unthinkable and pay nothing because it's an act of God.
No, they're invoking the force majeure. They already Woj, of course, already tweeted this out. That this doing the force majeure would be the act of reducing their salaries for games they have not played yet.
Okay.
So they got to pay them for the games they played.
Well, no, they already
majored before in my life. I've been force majored, so I know what that's like. There was a writer's strike.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, back in 2008, I think, and we were writing a pilot for ABC Studios at the time, a television pilot, and come the end of the strike, they voided our contract, and it was just torn up, and we didn't get the rest of our money, and they cited that clause, the act of God clause, force majeure. And so, and it literally, we didn't get anything more. There was no slight downward negotiation or anything. They just said, don't bother to turn it in. It's over. Tore it up. And that happened to a lot of writers, actually.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, I think a lot of hourly workers have been force majeured in the past couple weeks.
It's just, it's crazy. I just, there's no other way to say it. I mean, it could,
well, the NBA is not making any money, so you can't really fault the owners for saying, hey, look, man, we can't pay you another 20% of your salaries if we're not making a dime.
Yeah. I mean, it does make sense.
But you have to wonder if after this, leagues are going to start looking at it and going, we need to put X percent in a slush fund that's sitting there in case we get put in this situation again. So players, employees, all that's covered.
Let's be honest, though. The players still got 80% of their millions of dollars.
I'm not worried about the players.
They'll be okay.
The players are okay.
And the owners. I think the owners will be okay, too.
Yeah, I'm talking more about looking at the business operation side of this, because there's people like myself that were in those offices that are likely going to have to take severe cuts. They've even in the NBA offices they've taken cuts. Some teams have threatened to cut salaries or lay people off or furlough them. It's just amazing to me in an industry like this that you have not thought of. And they'll be forced to now, having gone through this. If we get in a situation like this again, what do we do to mitigate the losses? Do we have some kind of fund? How do we look at this? How do we prepare? Because this is an unprecedented situation. We've never dealt with anything like this before, so it's a little crazy. Quite frankly, and it actually feels like it could be the start to Zombieland 3 somehow, right? You know, it has that eerie feel to it where you're like, there's just empty cities, there's weird things.
The least entertaining sequel of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
Shelter
in place.
And that's a competition.
Yeah.
None of us mentioned, and somebody in the chat did. Well, somebody also mentioned Michael Beasley for quarantining with another player. I don't know about that one, but Steve Nash would be great to quarantine with, and none of us mentioned that one.
For sure.
I don't know. He has a couple young kids now, and I got one of my own. I don't need to add more into the mix. So.
You're assuming families come with? No, it's just you and Nash.
Oh, just me and Nash hanging out. Well, that's fine. Yeah, sure.
Imagine if Sean Kemp.
Okay.
Tell you what, I'll just quarantine with you guys, just the three of us. We'll shack up.
Sean Kemp's starting his own Big 3 tournament, a quarantine edition himself. You know, he's just running like 6 teams of 3 just from his kids. What
in his own backyard?
Right. What do you think of just out of curiosity, because it's part sport but part Hollywood, what they're doing with this Big Three tournament where they're partnering with the group that does Big Brother, and they're literally going to quarantine these guys in a house and play a 3-on-3 tournament in it. What are your kind of thoughts?
I mean,
well, it's like Big Brother, right? It's like Big Brother except with basketball players.
Yeah.
I tell you, I mean, I could not care less. Like if there's like the program at the very bottom of all the programs in the world to watch, this one would be right below that. Like, I mean, I hate the 3-on-3 thing anyway. And you throw the Big Brother element in there. Oh my God, I would not touch that thing.
Oh yeah, somebody's.
Look,
No offense.
I don't identify with that group. I mean, I watch these guys just on the NBA TV doing players only nights, and I don't like that either. So I can't imagine doing that kind of thing with 3-on-3 tournament. I'm with Rhett.
Somebody's going to say something that's going to be career ending, I'm sure, even though most of them are past their prime. I mean, heck, the XFL had open mics, and McGloin, the quarterback in New York, got himself in trouble during a game. So I can't imagine. He just said this was the worst run offense I've ever been a part of, and they had him on open mic, and they showed it on TV, and his coaches heard about it before halftime.
Brilliant, though, the open mics on the players and having the players interviewing right on the sidelines right after a play. I thought the XFL did great with their presentation. They just didn't have the audience, and then this shit happened.
Well, I mean, the audience wasn't bad, but it's I don't know that we're ever going to see spring football work, but
man, I can talk about
USFL.
something I'm not investing in ever.
What was that, Rhett? Dave rudely spoke over you.
No, it's just that the thing that you talk about the show I would least likely watch, the thing I would least likely invest in this world is spring football. I mean, how many times does that have to happen before somebody realizes
this time it's going to work?
But we need more football. We can jam it in there. Yeah. That was like the old ABA, not the 70s ABA, but they kept bringing back renditions of the ABA, and I remember there was like a Phoenix Eclipse team that Cedric Ceballos owned. They're like, "There's a new pro basketball." I'm like, "No, just stop." Like,
I did not know that. Yeah. That's brutal.
Yeah, we don't need anything. Yeah, they were supposed to play in a college arena, and then it was like we play in high school arenas. It's like, yeah, okay, enough. We don't need any more of that. So. Well, I think we've about exhausted everything that there is to talk about.
No, let's talk about Rhett for a little bit. Look, we are so lucky to have you on this show.
Oh boy,
Rhett,
nobody wants to hear that.
Dude, now that we're all quarantined, we have nothing but televisions in our lives. Some of us have little kids, like you guys, but the rest of us have nothing but television in our lives. What is it that we should be binge watching, Rhett? This is your chance right here.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to say what everybody else is saying, so you're going to hear it again. But Tiger King was awesome. That's 7 hours.
That was incredible.
That I just loved. And then we're watching Better Call Saul. We're catching up on that. Look, the great thing about all these streaming services is that all the archive materials there. So this gives us a chance to catch up on the 35 shows we've been feeling bad for not watching until now. So I think there's plenty to go back and find. But the Tiger King thing, talk about, the right show at the right time. That thing is awesome, and it couldn't have come at a better time when we really needed to just laugh and escape for a second.
Right.
It's definitely crazy.
I'd like to throw this out there, and I think Wayne is one that people need to go find and watch, because you guys did great with that, and I think it was underappreciated. I think people should go to find that one. A perfect thing to binge watch here.
Tell us a little bit about what's behind that, Rhett. So you put Wayne on YouTube TV, right?
We did. It was on YouTube Premium, and Premium. It was a tough one because they really had a nice plan to make television. They had Cobra Kai already a hit. Most networks take years to find their signature hit. They already had Cobra Kai. We were doing Wayne for them. We had a season loaded up and ready to go. And then they literally pulled the plug on the entire network. It was before even with their hit show already there and with other ones in the pipeline, they pulled the plug. And at the time, we very naively let them talk us into going ahead and airing it anyway, even though they were not going to develop any new shows, that the platform was still there to subscribe to. And they said, oh no, we're still going to do some things maybe. And, it's like, don't count us out, that kind of thing. And what we should have done was immediately say, no, we want the show back. We want to get it back.
Yeah.
We want to take it somewhere else and put it somewhere where it's going to, be viewable for a long time and it's going to last. And we didn't. We went ahead and let it air, and then it sort of became used goods, over the course of its airing. And it was just too much to ask to get people to subscribe to an essentially defunct channel just to watch one show, unless you're going to do the, hey, buy the first 30 days and you're free, and then we'll refund you the money if you don't want to keep going or whatever. Like that I can see, and some people did that.
So I just got a pop-up on YouTube. Wait a minute. I just got a pop-up on YouTube because I don't do the premium or the TV or anything like that. So I got the ads and everything. And it said 30 days free YouTube premium.
Yeah, they still do it. There's just no programming to be had. I mean, it's essentially... there is some stuff. I don't want to misstate, but there's no original programming. The one thing you do get, when I did subscribe to it that I enjoyed, was you do get to watch anything on YouTube ad free, so you don't have to sit through that, the little ad that you can skip past 10 seconds into it or whatever every time you watch anything. So that was nice, but it's something like $16 or $17 a month, so that's sort of a stretch.
Never mind.
To imagine paying that kind of money for something where you're just not getting anything. They have left it up. Wayne is still there. You can watch the first episode for free, but after that you have to pay. And we're trying.
I can get Apple TV and Netflix for as much money as I can get just YouTube Premium.
But exactly.
If you have YouTube TV, which is where I get my TV through, you can watch Wayne that way. That's the way I watch Wayne and Cobra Kai without.
Oh, is that right? I didn't realize that. Okay, that's good to know.
So,
is there a way that you can get Wayne back? And
we're actually trying to do that. We're trying to convince someone to make a season 2, but part and parcel of that is trying to figure out what to do to get season 1 more viewable. I mean, there's been some talk that YouTube might pull it out from behind the paywall altogether and just make it free. The problem with that is the show is mature. It has violence and it has swear words and things like that. So YouTube's not used to placing that kind of content out in front for free. And they've dinged a lot of the young YouTubers who are making videos for their language and stuff like that. So they can't sort of apply a double standard there. But our hope would be maybe it can come out from behind the paywall. And if not, maybe they would be willing to let it go and at least let season 1 live somewhere. Give it a chance to get some legs, even without much marketing on a Netflix or an Amazon or somewhere like that, or HBO Max or any one of these other places.
Okay. There's enough of them now.
In the hopes that maybe we could get some momentum and get a second season. Like, we're all dying for a second season. It got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got an IMDb score that's through the roof. People who watch it love it, but just not enough people saw it.
Rhett, I'm interested in this. I'm somebody that's fascinated with all these streaming services that are coming out. Where we're going to see an influx of them over the next few months. As a creator like yourself, is that exciting or is it troubling in any way? What is it for you as somebody who creates the content for these kind of platforms?
I mean, I think it's mostly exciting. It is difficult to find writers to staff shows because there's so many shows. So it is sometimes difficult to find the caliber of people that you want to put on a show when it's just everything is spread so thin. But in the grand scheme, it's really a golden age for writers and for creators. Like, there's just a chance to get more on and more different places and more opportunities than ever before. I do think the fragmentation of the audience is leading to lower budgets and fewer episode seasons. So I don't think, these Games of Thrones is where they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars for a season. Like, I don't think you'll see too much of that. So you have to be able to work within your budgets. But overall, it's a great time to be working in TV.
What do you think of the I believe it's pronounced Quibi platform that's coming out here in a few weeks? Is this short?
I have no idea. I know it has deep pockets. It's in theory very digestible, shorter content for your phone. At one point, we heard a rumor. I don't think it's true, but they were forcing creators to shoot vertically so that people could watch vertically on their phone instead of using landscape mode, which just totally made us terrified. But we then heard that was not true and that was false information. But I don't know. They've got very deep pockets. It's Jeffrey Katzenberg and Meg Whitman, and they had billions of dollars at least, I think, to get it up and running. So, and we're about to get a free version of it here soon to try to hook everybody. I have my doubts, I guess, because it's just there's a lot of new stuff, and we only have so much money to spread around, especially during these times. But we'll see. I'm excited to see what they have on offer.
I'm fascinated by it because I heard they're bringing back Legends of the Hidden Temple, but it's adults that get to play it this time rather than the kids. So that has me intrigued.
That is
Legends
intriguing.
of the Hidden Temple.
So
as far as like the Hollywood budgets, I know because of all what's going on, all the movies got stopped. Nothing's in production right now. Is that right?
Yeah, basically anything that has to shoot and needs a set is just a no-go. My guess is animation's being done because that can be done more remotely. But anything where you need to get a group of people congregating in an area to make something is not happening, and that's just about everything.
But how much time usually is there between finishing the filming with the actors, like you said, getting everybody together to do the filming, then the editing and the release and all that? Like, are we going to see new? It's months and months, so we'll still see new movies this summer, right?
Well, I mean, the question is, will the theaters be open? I mean, a lot of
duh. What am I thinking?
Yeah, so they've kicked. For instance, Fast and the Furious was supposed to come out in April, right? They were raring to go. They started to spend their marketing money, and then all of a sudden it was like, whoa. They've pushed it a full year back. And a lot of other places are pushing stuff back and trying to grab release dates. And so it's more now about the pipeline in terms of the theaters, too. Now, you have seen some movies kick over to streaming. So like the one with Mail Nanjiani and Issa Rae, I think, jumped over to Netflix. It was supposed to be a theatrical release. So I think you'll see some of those. Some of them are being
just the smaller ones? Or do you think any big ones?
Smaller ones, because they need to recoup those big budgets. It's tough. Yeah. I don't know. It'd be interesting. I mean, Netflix may open up their pocketbooks and buy some of these bigger budgeted movies and put them on. But if I had to guess, most of them sit out this coronavirus and wait for the theaters to open.
So does 2020 become the basically the murderer's row of films? Because we're going to have all these big budget films pushing to 2021 and trying to find dates. It could be basically a blockbuster summer the entire year if most.
I mean, it could be. Yeah, 2021 could be the most amazing year of all time.
Right. Yeah. Am I right that if you're a big budget film, you're trying to get a great release date, the first thing you're going for is summer and Christmas time, right? Those are the two big hits. Yeah. And then so if a movie is coming out in February, March, it's usually okay. They don't expect it to make a ton of money, or they can't compete against the.
Hold on, you're talking to a guy who released a film in February that became the highest grossing, if I'm correct, right?
Well, that's
R-rated film of all time, right?
No, I'm leading to that. So what goes behind the timing of a release and how you're going to roll the dice and say, look, man, I can make all the money I want in February. How did that happen?
I think it used to be, you were right, that it was summer. And look, first off, you are right. Summer and holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas are still the most sought after release time, because that's when people go to the movies most. Summer, kids are off school, and holidays, kids are off school, and people just want to be festive and see movies. So those will always be the prime spots. That said, slowly but surely, brave studio executives have released movies at different times on the calendar to great, great success. And as such, now I think there's really no dumping ground. It used to be that September, October was an absolute dumping ground. And you just almost knew the movies themselves would be bad in those areas.
Yeah.
and January, February, March, same thing. But what you found was that people started taking big swings because it was less crowded. And it worked. Like you saw Marvel movies coming out, instead of waiting for June, which is what they usually did, they started coming out in May, and then it was late April. They started pushing summer, forward. And then you saw, again, Deadpool's a great example. That was a February movie that just blew up. And I think Marvel's proven it doesn't matter when they release their movies; they're always successful. So that they make the time rather than the time making them.
Well, what were you thinking when Deadpool got a February release? Like, what did that make you cringe a little bit, or were you excited?
Yeah, I was a little nervous, but I think, and I can't remember the specific movies that filled me with confidence, but there had been enough that had succeeded off schedule, so to speak, that I wasn't too nervous. I felt pretty good about it at the time.
So, Rhett,
yeah, well, it was a good role.
do you have anything anything in the queue? Anything you want to promote? Well, you have the ears of the tens of people listening here right now.
Well, sadly,
Wait, hey,
I mean,
Brett,
we
we
got a
gotta
lot of stuff.
apologize, man. We usually have a lot more listeners, but right now nobody cares about basketball. So you're speaking into a void
Look,
right now.
it's just fun hanging out talking. I don't care if anybody, but we could be doing this on an island somewhere and I'd be happy. So, look, I just want to get out of the house. This is the next best thing. Okay. Question. What was the question? Oh, anything percolating? Yeah, we have a few things. Nothing was shooting. I mean, and in some ways that was a blessing because a lot of people were in the middle of shooting something and then they had to all come home and then you're just wondering, when are we ever going to get back out there and all those things. Like we were about to shoot a new television pilot in April. That one has gotten postponed, so we hadn't started it yet. We have a number of movies kind of in the hopper that we're hopefully going to shoot later this year that still could get pushed or may never get made. One of them's Clue, which is based on the old board game. Yeah, one of them is McScam, which is the dramatization of the McDonald's scam that's now airing as a documentary on HBO. I've only seen one episode of that called McMillions. Ours is called McScam. Same story, but ours is the dramatized version, and that's supposed to star Matt Damon and be directed by Ben Affleck. Nice. But we'll see. And then we have another
Clue?
Well, Clue is Ryan Reynolds.
Nice.
Originally, Jason Bateman was going to direct it, but his Ozark schedule got in the way, and so now James Bobbin from Flight of the Conchords is in talks to do it. He may or may not end up doing it. I'm not sure, but I think that is probably happening. And then we got a project over at Netflix called Spiderhead, a science fiction project that Joe Kosinski's going to direct. He's the director of Tron and the new Top Gun 2. So we're really excited about that. That could shoot later in the year too. So we're excited about that. And then we're writing a top secret project right now for Skydance, the good friends of ours who we made a few movies with. So we have things going, and we're actually writing right now. Writers are the only ones who can work right now, and editors basically. So there are some folks working around the edges, and we're ones of them. Thankfully for us, very sad for everybody else right now, but. So we are writing a new feature screenplay right now. We have a lot of television in the works too, various places that could start shooting later in the year. So anyway, I don't really have anything to promote. There's nothing for people to. There's no theater for someone to go to right now anyway. But hopefully you guys can have me back on in the fall or y'all look tomorrow. I'll do it again tomorrow if you want. But whenever you have me on,
we're doing these every Wednesday night, man.
Exactly. Something a little more concrete. We can talk about Luka Doncic over big drinks and because I'll need one.
So do you? Last question, and we'll let you get back to the family. But have you ever written anything outside of screenplays? Have you ever ventured into novel writing or anything like that, or have you just been so consumed with writing TV and movies that you haven't ventured in that kind of area?
It's interesting that you asked that. It sounds like I put you up to ask that question. I did write a novel that is available as an ebook on Amazon. It's called Anxiety. It's a thriller. It's a short thriller. It's fewer than 300 pages. Sort of a beach book, not Shakespeare by any stretch. I wrote it a long time ago. I had been working on Monsters, Inc. up at Pixar, and I had a very brutal ending to my tenure there where I didn't get renewed, and it was very sort of tragic for me at that exact moment in my career. And so I said, you know what, I'm leaving Hollywood. I'm taking a year off. I'm writing a novel. So I took a full year off. I wrote the novel. It didn't get published, and I came running with my tail right between my legs right back to Hollywood again and started writing screenplays again. But I think it's a fun little book. It's called Anxiety. It's on Amazon, or I think whatever the iBooks, the Apple store is, it's on that too. It's like $5, so you can't really lose. I mean, I guess you lose $5, but I think it's kind of fun.
It's only online, right?
Yeah, only online. It never got published in actual paper form.
Well, that's awesome.
Well,
Cool.
Well, check that out. Check out Zombieland 2, which is on demand wherever you decide to spend your money to get films on demand, and you know everything else that Rhett's made. You guys are all familiar with him, Rhett.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to lead to. Is when you're binging, binge the Deadpool movies, binge the Zombieland movies. You've got what, the Joe Schmo Show, Invasion Iowa, GI Joe Retaliation. You got lots of stuff. Just look up Rhett Reese, man.
There's definitely some stuff to dig out if you have the time, which we all have right now.
Which we all have.
I feel
but
like
but go where your tastes take you. It doesn't have to be to our stuff. There's a lot of great stuff in this world.
I feel like the only one I can watch, I think it was Clifford 3, right? I feel like that's the one I can watch at home right now. So,
with your kids.
They're making a new Clifford movie. You know, I wrote a Clifford. Greg's referring to a Clifford movie that I wrote a long time ago. It was heavily rewritten, so there's not much left of what I did in there. But that said, they're doing a new Clifford movie, so there you go. Maybe that's your next.
Is
home
Ryan
binge.
in that one too?
It's not Ryan Reynolds. John Ritter played the voice of Clifford, and that was the last project he did before he died, which is very sad.
Well, there's
but he was the voice of Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Wow. Well,
really?
I appreciate you stopping by. If anybody's looking for my recommendation, I'm hooked on a show called Dispatches from Elsewhere right now on AMC with Jason Segel. It's actually based on a bizarre thing that happened in San Francisco. This game that this group of people get pulled into, and it's so out there that I just got hooked on it. So it's running right now. So you guys check that out too. But Rhett, appreciate your time. Dave, whatever. I talk to you all the time. So,
you were here. Yes.
but thank you everybody for watching, and those of you listening on the podcast. We'll be back on Saturday with more mid-end season, whatever grades, whatever we're calling quarantine grades that we're giving to the players, and we'll talk whatever else is going on. And we'll be back next Wednesday with another one of these solar parties where we talk God knows what. So thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you on Saturday.
Thanks so much
Rhett.
for having me.